Definitely.
But no, I was just saying, like, a lot of, in my experience, people have tried the 12-year-old, really like it, and they've maybe tasted the 21, and the 21 is such a special whiskey that, the 15, they're like, oh, well, I like this one so much, I'm prepared to spend a bit more. Or people are like, well, why would I spend 75 on the 15 when I could, spend a bit more and get the cask strength? So, it does often get overlooked, and I don't think it's fair. I think this is actually, it's one that's definitely worth a taste. It's quite different to, people think that you're going to go 12-year-old, and then the 15 will be a little bit more developed, a bit more complex. 21 will be a bit more developed, more complex. And there's a similar DNA running through them all, but they're all quite different. And the 15 to me stands out as the kind of unique one. I think
there's a certain greenness to this, and a bit more like spryness. Is a bit drier or something.
It's definitely, like, in my opinion, it's the driest, and I would agree. Like herbal, I always get like, do you know those evergreen trees that if you rub your fingers on them, they leave this lovely kind of, almost, it's not quite mint, but it's like this herbaceous, slightly medicinal note. This reminds me a wee bit of that. It is drier, but there is fruit. There's definitely fruit in there, but it's more like
I think apple. I mean, I think you still get that kind of core Redbreast, like apple and peach undertone. But this one definitely, as you say, I mean, to me, there's nearly like an element of like slightly cough syrupy nose on it. It's just kind of getting that way.
It has that wee touch of medicinal. There's definitely something in there. But yeah, to me as well, like, it's just got this lovely backbone too of like vibrant green fruit. I used to always think I got a little bit of like a brambly fruit character, but I'm not getting it as much on the nose now.
And there's definitely more. To me, again, this is slightly woodier. Even the Lustau, there seems to be sort of more oak influence, like nearly like sawn oak, like a little bit of sawdust kind of stuff going on.
It's a bit brighter, like a bit. I know that's a strange way to describe whiskey, but.
So Richard's asking here, what gives the 15 such a distinctive flavour from the other Redbreast entries?
It's really down to Billy. He's the man who puts the distillates together. Now there is. It's been so long since I've done a tasting of this. There is something different about this one. I think there's possibly an additional distillate type. It is the same casks, not the distillate. I think it's this actually has some first fill on here, which makes it different to the previous two. If my memory serves me correctly.
I suppose that would maybe make sense with more sort of woody characteristics then, if you're having first fill.
Yeah. But yeah, when you taste it, like between the 12, between the 15, between 21, like they're very distinctly different whiskies.
They are. Now, I find this quite an interesting thing with whiskies, right? So, if you talk to people who drink, I'll use this company because it used to be part of the IDL family, and it's Irish whiskey. So Bushmills, 16 and 21. People seem to be very like on one side or the other. They love the 21, not so much the 16. Others think the 16 is the pinnacle and not so much the 21. And the same thing kind of happens with Redbreast, especially with the 12, the 15, and the 21. You ask anybody that drinks Redbreast on a regular basis, and they have these different expressions. They'll be you could really start a fist fight as to what way you're going to order these.
Yeah, it is funny. Like people, especially online, I know anytime any discussion comes up, people are very quick to say, "Actually, my favorite one is this one." But I mean, to be honest, that's probably a good thing because, I wouldn't really want people to say, "Oh, they're all nice." Like you want people to have a preference because that means you're actually making different whiskies. If they all just tasted a bit different but a bit more complex and a bit more expensive, where's the fun in it?
Well, that's it. I think that, and if people are pouring these guys, actually go back and just do a compare and contrast between them, because it is massively different to try the 15 compared to the 12. On the palate with the 15, I get massive dark chocolate notes, like bitter dark, like 85% cocoa kind of dark chocolate.
See, I actually get the first thing I get is like maraschino cherry, like a dark syrupy, like fruit note.
Yeah, there is a lot of sweetness up front, definitely.
It does. No, it fades, over time. I'm definitely getting a bit more of a deeper note. Yeah, for me, it's not quite chocolate. It's almost earthy, like almost get a little bit of that kind of like forest floor, character, which I think, which is maybe the same kind of thing that you're getting. Like,
I would say though that I find the finish is slightly shorter compared to even the Lustre or the 12, which is one of the reasons why, for me personally, the 15 wouldn't be quite as high. I would actually go for the 12 before I go for the 15 on a personal basis. But no, that's one of those fist fights that we can get into later on.
No, but like the amount of times I've done tastings and people have even said, compared to the 21, they're like, actually, I still like the 12-year-old the most.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just the taste, or maybe it's the price point. Maybe it's a combination of both. For me, it's like I just love the 21 so much.
Yeah,
it's for me, like for me for a long time. Maybe still, it was like, that's the best whiskey we make. There's not, they can't beat this. But yeah, I mean, I totally understand, because they're so different. Naturally, people are gonna have preferences. If you just like the more expensive one, like, what's that say?
Well,
I do like most more expensive ones. So,
well, I mean, the thing for me is that, as you say, I mean, in fact, I was actually chatting to my friend recently about this, and I was sort of like, if there was only one range of whiskey that I could ever have, it would be Redbreast, and it's the only one that will ever go out of my way to make sure that I have all the bottles.
Yeah.
In the core range, and I just think that, and even though I don't necessarily say that I don't prefer the 15, I always enjoy going back and trying it.
Yeah. It's one that, like, only once have I done a tasting and somebody said they didn't like Redbreast, and that's fine. You're allowed to not like it.
Get ejected, Joe?
No, I just gave him a really funny look. I was like, "What? Really? Why wind me up?" No, but in all seriousness, of course, that's totally fine. But yeah, it's one that I guess, there's something there for everyone. Like they're all quite different in style. Most people are going to like the 12, but you get into those, slightly more premium, slightly older range. You're going to have preferences and pick what you like. But certainly, it's one that, like, I always love to revisit Redbreast, because it's so fun to talk about and people enjoy it so much as well.
Yeah, that's it. So if anybody that's watching wants to fire in the chat any of the notes that they're getting as well, I'll see that Will Evans is saying that he gets slightly more bitterness in the 15. So yeah, I think maybe I agree with that myself. But that's the great thing, isn't it? Is that in some ways it is really good that they're so different at each stage, that they're not just a sort of slightly more expensive progression of what the first one was. Because it does give you variety and it gives you choice. And, for some people, their palate will be so attuned to the 15, that now they have a Redbreast that is for them, So that's the good thing about it.
Absolutely.
So